Welcome to the channel, guys. It's Primal Chaos here, and if you've been following the channel, you know that I'm kind of an eclectic music listener, but I've been sort of disregarding a very fertile genre, and that's hardcore and in this case, metalcore. And so I'm asking for you guys to come along on the journey and instruct me, be my Sherpas up the mountain of hardcore and metalcore. And yeah, so what I've been doing is just giving you first listen reactions to some key tracks from that genre. I may continue to do this. I may move into other genres I'm not familiar with, but it seems like there's just an abundance of really good bands and really good tracks. So I'm going to hang around for a while and stick around, like, follow. Without further ado, I've done Parkway, I've done August Burns Red, and I'm now sort of becoming a fan of both of those bands. But to move in a completely different direction, Bring Me the Horizon is up next. It's from what I understand, another one of those top pinnacle sort of bands. But look, I'm going to be perfectly frank. I'm actually familiar with Bring Me the Horizon's latest album, you know, songs like Parasite Eve and things like that. So I know what to expect in that regard. But I'm also hugely aware that there was a monumental shift in what these guys were doing where, you know, originally they were way more metalcore, and they sort of pivoted and apparently lost a lot of fans. And a lot of people probably initially were a bit shocked and moved on. I think that the transition happened over the course of several albums. So I've gone back fairly far. And so Chelsea Smile is from, I think, 2008. And I think that's probably going to give me some pretty good bearings about what was going on in the scene at the time, and also what this band was doing at the time in their formative years. So let's jump straight in. No one wants to hear me talk. Let's do this. Oh, that's really tight. Okay, before we get too far into it, this is, again, completely different vocal style. I mean, I know these guys are British, but that's a really open vowel sound. You know, a lot of hardcore singers sort of get around, you know, the vowels and stuff by more of a oh sort of thing. A lot more ohs and oohs and stuff like that, whereas these guys are really, it's really open. And I guess that sort of reminds me, sort of like a bastardization of aggressive vocalists, I guess, similar in the similar vein to more screaming sort of stuff, like your Cradle of Filths and things like that. But again, that's another territory I'm not super familiar with. I've just heard certain tracks and I've gone, okay, that's a vocal, right? But this is, I guess it's maybe indicative of the British scene. We'll see. Again, I don't know. Oh, and also, man, high energy, right? Right from the kickoff. This thing has just been kicking my ass. Okay, so another interesting. So I'm just going to move my mic a little bit. Another interesting thing there is sometimes the vocal just devolves into just sounds. Like now, falling and failing is all I know, and I didn't get is all I know. Like that's all I know. I got more like a, and I'm like, I like it. Pure disregard for the poetry. Let's just fucking kick some ass. All right. Let me hear that again. That's just good riffs. Are you hearing that in the background? It's just rock and roll. Like, you know, there's the bands in this genre just seem to be really good at mixing it up. And, you know, and I feel like I'm sort of in this song is moving into the territory of, I guess, being a little bit more experimental. And again, early stages, I don't know too much, but, and I'm a big fan of bands that sort of really throw you curveballs. Someone in the chat was throwing me some examples of bands where they really do that, and I'm keen to get into those. I'll talk about that later, but But I mean, just listen to the change up here where it goes from your hardcore sort of typical rhythmic fare into just straight up rock riffs. Nice dissonance. You can't help it, eh? So this is interesting. My initial reaction here is knowing what I know about Bring Me the Horizon, which again is very little, but just more recent stuff. And I know from, you know, working, selling records and stuff like that back in the day, you know, around the time when, what's the name of the album? Sempiternal came out. And again, I haven't heard it. I know the album art and stuff like that. And I know from talking to people when they came in, and you get anecdotal connections to things through talking to people and stuff. I think that was when the pivot may have started to happen. I think that album was a little bit divisive, and then it got more divisive as more subsequent music came out. But I honestly think at the soul of this band, you know, people were kind of like, oh, they've moved in more of a pop direction, you know? And I use the term pop very loosely. By pop, I mean more engaging for a wider audience, less aggressive, less, you know, still having elements of the aggression, but more palatable for more of a marketplace. That's sort of how I define sort of the shift. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of that isn't intentional. I think it comes from bands growing up and becoming a little bit more eclectic with their own tastes and being exposed to other forms of music, and, you know, realizing that writing the heaviest music to, you know, to the desire to be the heaviest fucking band in the world, that sort of fades after a while because life gets in the way and you start to learn about new things and new interests and new hobbies, and you're less angry and less angsty. And so different things appeal to you. And so the shift to sort of moving to more palatable music is not an uncommon one, right? But I think at the heart of this band, there was always that pop sensibility. Maybe they just were afraid to go there because you can hear it. Like this section I'm just listening to right now. This is what I would consider the break shit sort of area of the song. It's designed for you to just jump around. You can see it in the activity going on in the clip. This is where you bounce around the room smashing vases and just destroying shit, right? But there's parts of the song that give you a reprieve from that, and it's very cleverly woven together. Before, when I was talking about those rock riffs, it gives you time to come down and just vibe with the song and just rock out. It's like smash the dashboard parts of the song. Whereas this part of the song is designed to make you just drive too fast, you know? And it's that pop sensibility sort of back here. You know, there's nothing challenging about that for a listener. That's just great rock, right? But then you get to these, I guess, more verse parts or whatever. And I mean, look, they're just breaking shit, right? So there's nothing wrong with writing catchy hooks, right? That's what these guys do. And I think what happened was they just sort of became more comfortable moving in that direction. And I guess, you know, more production came into play. This is really raw. The stuff I've heard off post whatever it is, the latest sort of, you know, pandemic album. It's way more produced, way more electronic, you know, and I mean, we're all guilty of that too. Like I started off being, you know, writing a lot more rock sort of stuff. But the desire was always there to put in strings and accompaniment, like, you know, like orchestral sort of stuff to give it some vibe. And you know, lately I've been sort of putting in a lot more 80s synth sounds and things like that, because the technology is available and it doesn't take a lot of playing around before you go, huh, that sounds sick, you know? And, you know, I don't blame anybody for sort of shifting in that direction, because I myself am guilty of that. But I think deep in the soul of these guys has always been that trajectory based on this song. I mean, this is one song from 2008, but I can hear it. I just looked up at the lyrics to try and catch where I was up to, and all I'm getting is fuck yeah. Whoa, hang on. What just happened? You ever see that movie From Dusk Till Dawn, where you're watching a gangster movie with these two brothers, bank robbers, that are like running from the law, and then you blink and it's a vampire movie? That's what just happened. It's a bold choice, man. I love it. Oh, they're doubling down. What the fuck? Okay, right. I need to have a chat. If you're a fan of Bring Me the Horizon, and you're the kind of person who thinks that their new material is so vastly different that it's uncharacteristic of the band, can you break down for me what part of this isn't epic, or, you know, over the top or experimental? You know, I mean, there's strings in there and there's completely off kilter. Like, it's not just your typical, oh, we're just going to throw in some tempo changes and some time signature changes and stuff. This is like completely going off the rails in a million different directions. And it's like, it's fascinating, you know? Like, this is, again, this is music for people with ADHD. It's like, it's an album in one song. But there's that energy, that experimental, exploratory energy is right here in 2008. So if you could explain to me in the comments what changed that wasn't something that appeals to you, I'd love to know. Like, it's you know, I might sound like I'm being overly aggressive, but I'm my mind's blown. I just want to know, like, what was the shift that people didn't like? This sounds like the same band. It's just raw. That's just me. What a great riff. If that's not anthemic for people to be screaming back to him in the pit, I don't know what is. Right, so, oh, okay. This is going to sound such a noob comment, but I just scrolled to the bottom of the lyrics and I saw the name Oliver Scott Sykes, and I'm like, oh, this is the band Ollie Sykes is in. And again, I know the name, and I think I might have seen him. Did he? I think he appeared on the Chester Bennington benefit concert thing. And I mean, I've heard the name a million times, but two and two just got put together. So I don't know if Ollie writes the lyrics, but a point that I wanted to bring up, and I noticed this in the more recent material too, is that he has a cadence to his writing that actually reminds me a lot of hip hop. It's the same sort of thematic sort of thing as a lot of the other bands, you know, like not that dissimilar from Parkway. Obviously not Vice Grip, because that's a whole other story, but it's you know, it's getting worse, you know, blah blah blah, whatever, pulling teeth, all that sort of analogous for angst, and again pushing against the boundaries and things like that, buried in regret and blah blah blah. But there's a cadence, and there's the way he uses his turns of phrases, I guess, to me strikes me as sort of being a little bit rapper, you know, and that isn't too difficult a stretch to make, because I mean, I know the hip hop scene and stuff like that has it in the UK definitely has its own place, and definitely has its own flavor and stuff like that. And I can't imagine that wouldn't rub off on other people in the music community and stuff like that. But I mean, how different is this vocal style from rap? You know, it's not a melody, he's not singing anything. It's speaking your poetry to a cadence that matches the music. You're just doing it a lot more aggressively. You know, I'm not sure about what it is specifically. If I had to put a pin in it and say what reminds me of that, it's just like, I guess it's more to do with like the tone of it more than anything. It's not like it, you know, you could easily rap this or whatever. This definitely fits in with the sound of, you know, musically what's happening. But it's just, I don't know, he's just got a way of creatively putting words together in a way that paint a picture that's more akin to a really good hip hop lyricist as opposed to a rock singer. You know what I mean? Yeah, but anyway, sorry, I missed a lot of the end there because I was too busy thinking about it. You will never know. I know something you don't know. Good ending too. I like a song that has a definitive end. Cool. Okay, so that's it, I guess. All right. Tick. I liked it. You might have been. I got to be excited there in the middle. Man. Okay, so this is one of those songs I don't think I can really give a huge deep dive on in summary, because so much was going on and I was thinking about so many things which I brought up throughout. But it's like. It's really interesting, but I think this is one of those albums probably that I'm going to have to listen to and cycle, you know, to really get to the bottom of how I feel about it. I mean, I like it, I really do. But I feel like there's a lot more depth there that I can discover as I go along, which is really interesting. So far, I would say out of the three that I've done, three bands, I should say, I think I'm more of a fan of this, because it's a little bit more eclectic, you know. Parkway does everything right. They tick all of the boxes. I liked how August Burns Red was a little bit more experimental with where they were willing to take the music. But this is chaos, and I respond to chaos, I think. So, yeah. Pretty much that's all I got to say about it. As always, I always like to bring attention to the colorblindness. I'm colorblind myself. I'll put a link in the description. For Enchroma Glasses. You can get your eyes tested, and if you decide to buy a pair of glasses, which I 100% endorse, I'm a big fan, use the code CHAOS and get 10% off, and check that out. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm thinking about doing this. Listen, I've had a bunch of requests that seem really interesting, and I'm going to get through them. There's just something, I think next up I'll probably attempt architects, just because I've heard a lot of things, but I will get around to all the other ones. I just maybe need a good recommendation for a song for those guys, because I have a feeling they might be right up my alley. But yeah, cool. Thanks again for checking in. I've had some amazing comments on Reddit, and also on the Metalcore subreddit, and also in the comments under the video. So I really appreciate that, guys. And I'll catch you on the next one.